Sober October, Day 7, How Alcohol Affects Our Health, Part 2. You're going to hear a lot of info in this podcast that's not well known, discussed, or even that popular. You'll occasionally hear all sorts of benefits from alcohol, but rarely will you hear about the long-term negative effects that it can have on our body and our health. There's a lot to cover, and I'm just scratching the surface. So what I'm going to do in this episode is just present a summary of a few resources that I've found super helpful. And if you really want to nerd out and dive deeper, I think you should check those out. And I think you should, because it's really important information to know. So you'll have access to those. First, the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, which is part of the National Institutes of Health, has a whole bunch of information. I'll link to that in the show notes so you can see it, but I'll just give you a brief overview of what they list as alcohol's effects on your long-term health. They list all kinds of organ damage that is associated to alcohol use. It affects your brain, lungs, muscles, pancreas, bones, including reduced bone density. It affects your heart, including heart disease, hypertension. It affects your oral health, including your esophagus, even your teeth. It affects your liver and your gut, which is your digestive system. Not only that, it affects your immune system and how it regulates itself. And even one drink a day has been shown to increase the risk of cancer in the liver, colon, your mouth, rectum, and breasts. Yikes. Another resource that I want to point you to is a podcast from the Huberman Lab podcast. Andrew Huberman, if you have never heard of him, he has a real popular podcast. He is a neuroscientist, neurobiologist at Stanford University, and he puts out this podcast on health and the body and how it mostly associates with the brain. But he did an entire podcast on alcohol's effect on the body. And simply, it just blew my mind. So I just kind of want to hit on a couple things he said in his podcast, but I'm going to link that. If you want a comprehensive view of alcohol's effect on the body, go listen to this. It's full of information that a lot of people don't talk about, but is crucial. So in his podcast, he gets into the effects of alcohol primarily on just the body in general with alcohol's toxicity. And then he focuses on the gut and mostly on the brain. In terms of your brain, he says that low to moderate amounts, which is 1 to 2 drinks a day, most days of the week, has shown evidence of loss of neurons in the brain. In the short term, when alcohol gets into the brain, there's a slight suppression of thinking and planning, and anything that controls impulsive behavior is diminished. So, clearly we see that when people start getting silly, they start feeling the buzz, they start doing things they probably wouldn't normally do. But alcohol has a long-term effect on the brain because alcohol impacts memory formation and storage. If you think of your brain as like a computer, alcohol affects the neurons, which would be like the wiring within the computer. This is not good. Thankfully, the brain is really good at healing itself. And he talks about how even with sobriety of periods of 2 to 6 months, a lot of the damage that alcohol has done can be completely reversed. So sobriety allows the brain to heal from the effects of alcohol. Another area he talks about is alcohol's effect on the gut. And he uses a picture that I think is really effective. Have you ever watched a movie where someone gets cut or shot or, they get an arrow stuck in them or something like that, and they need to clean the wound. And what do? They only have alcohol, right? So they pour some alcohol over it. That's because for a very long time, alcohol was used to kill bacteria in and around the wounds. So when you drink alcohol, it can have the same effect inside you. It can affect the gut by affecting the bacteria going on in your gut. If you don't know a lot about your gut and your digestive system, it's fine. All you need to know is that you are not alone. You are full of little things that are eating and consuming and breaking down your food. That's bacteria in your gut. They are a good thing, and they are required for good health. And so alcohol has an effect on that, which when your digestive system is affected, your overall health can just decrease because you're not going to get as many nutrients. You're not going to absorb what you need to absorb, and it just really messes you up from the inside out. And then he also talks about just what is actually going on when alcohol is ingested. And it's kind of technical, but here's the gist. When we drink alcohol, we're really only drinking ethanol. It's the only type of alcohol we can drink. Rubbing alcohol, you can't drink that stuff. That's real bad for you. But ethanol, our body can handle. And ethanol produces something called acetaldehyde. When alcohol goes into your body, it is converted by the body into acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde is a poison. In low amounts, the body can convert it to acetate, which can be used for energy. Your body can only convert so much of this stuff to acetaldehyde to acetate at a certain rate, and eventually the acetaldehyde builds up in the liver when the body can't process it quick enough. So the gist is, when you are consuming alcohol, you are literally ingesting a poison, which is converted into a worse poison, which in low amounts can be converted into energy, but in high amounts can only be converted into so much energy, and then you basically store up a poison until your body can deal with it. So you can start to see, wow, there's a real effect going on in my body. And you don't need a medical degree to understand that poison is, it's bad for your overall health. So there is a lot of other stuff that he gets into in this podcast, which is, again, why I think you should go check it out. Just a couple quick things. He talks about how if you ingest alcohol, like I said, your body converts it eventually into energy. If you have anything else in your system, alcohol takes precedence. So if you have carbs or fat or protein, whatever, your body will break down the alcohol first, and then it'll break down the other stuff. And if you have a lot of alcohol in your system, what the body tends to do with extra energy is store it as fat. Also, there can be a increase in estrogen for men and a decrease in testosterone for men. Not good. And I'm just going to leave you with a final fact, because this one I remember more than any other fact from this podcast, and it is his explanation of the increase in risk of cancer from drinking compared to the increase in risk of cancer from smoking. Listen to this.
And what they'll sometimes tell you, and what you can find in the literature, is that ingesting 10 to 15 grams of alcohol a day, so that would be like one beer in the US or one glass of wine, is the same as smoking 10 cigarettes a day.
Yeah. When I first heard that, I was like, whoa, what? And I paused it and I had to go back and listen to it. And, I have listened to this podcast multiple times, took notes, and it's truly mind-blowing, the effect of alcohol on the human body. It's, in general, not good. So that is it for today. I will link a bunch of stuff in the show notes on my Substack, so you can go check that out. But whatever your goals, I hope this is helpful. I hope this helps you make some informed decisions and gives you a new perspective on what you're putting in your body. So, as always, thanks for listening.